Hello, and welcome to the Empath Zone podcast, where we discuss various topics about being an empath and spirituality. This is podcast number 21. I'm Gary, and I'm an empath and a healer, and I run the Empath Zone. My two wonderful co-hosts are Jennifer Harris. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Gary. I'm Jen. I am the Empath Zone site admin, and I am also a demonologist.
And the other one is Mari. How are you, Mari?
Doing pretty good.
And my specialties are psychic defense and spirituality.
And today's topic is, are empaths perfect? Or does being an empath make you morally superior? So over to you, Mari. What do you think?
Well, I want to do a podcast on this, especially after reading a couple posts in our Empath Zone group, where people were asking about if other empaths could actually be narcissistic or have bad intentions, and the majority of members said that that's impossible, and an empath will only have the best of intentions because they can feel the emotions of others. So which brings me to the question, if you're an empath and you can sense emotions and understand how the other person's feeling, does that necessarily mean on a personal level that you actually care what the other person is feeling? That's just, where I'm coming from. The majority of the time, the average person will, care and be compassionate and empathetic. However, there is that small minority that won't. And that's where narcissists come into play. And those that have had just very traumatic backgrounds come into play, where instead of being compassionate, they choose to be negative. And that's just, where I'm trying to convey
that empaths aren't morally perfect. They won't always have the best of intentions. You know what I mean?
That's just kind of where I'm...
It doesn't necessarily follow, in my opinion, that just because you're an empath that you're going to do the right thing or care about people. In fact, many empaths are narcissistic, just by the fact that they have enough trauma, as you said, to always want the attention on them. And they use the empath abilities to actually sense whether people are paying attention to them or not. In fact, most of the empaths I do know are narcissists.
And that's been my experience. And
So
even
question.
what?
Sorry.
Yes,
So question. An empath, the term for empath really is a person that can feel emotion. So if a person that can feel emotion is an empath, then the narcissist, most people are under the understanding a narcissist doesn't feel emotion. They only understand what makes them feel good for that moment. So how can a narcissist be an empath?
I know a narcissist. One of my family members is a narcissist, and she always has to be right, but she's definitely an empath. The thing is that just because you happen to be an empath doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be spiritual. It's like saying that people who have powers are spiritual, but that's absolutely got nothing to do with anything. Having knowledge, having powers, being spirituals are all mutually exclusive. Just because people are empathic doesn't necessarily mean that they are spiritual or good. It's like saying just because you have psychic powers, you're automatically good or you're automatically spiritual. It doesn't work that way. All things are mutually exclusive. If you are one, you're not necessarily the other.
The same thing could be said about, people that are in, the healthcare field. Just because you're a doctor, doesn't mean that you're going to be nice all the time. I know tons of doctors with horrible bedside manner. Because they're like, well, I'm just here for the paycheck because I'd be getting lots of money, so I could care less about how you're feeling.
Or even
Will
ethical.
I, get you healthy and fix you? Yeah, but that doesn't mean I have to care about how I'm acting. I feel it's the same way for empaths, especially looking into, a person's background. You just never know what they've gone through.
Well, in my personal experience, especially adminning these empath groups, the posts that I'm seeing in the garbage is that empaths typically, in my view of things, are the most hypocritical and rude and judgmental bunch of people because they hold themselves. Well, they act so self-righteous, and I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of hate over this one, but they act so self-righteous.
And I agree with Jen 100%, so by the way, so we can both get a bunch of hate.
Well, it's true, because people, by their rules, they shouldn't be judging, they should be empathizing with what the other person's saying, rather than saying that you're wrong and this can't be right. In effect, they become the exact thing that they say doesn't exist.
And then, heaven forbid, me or Jen or you admit and tell people, hey, y'all need to calm down and be nice to each other. Oh no, how dare you tell me to stop? Now you're judging me. You're not a real empath.
Oh, yes,
I mean, that's like my favorite.
You're not much of an empath, are you? I've had many people
how
tell me
dare
that.
you judge me?
There's many times that we've actually had to comfort our admin team because of the fact that someone has just torn the Mickey out of them.
Gosh, that annoys me to no end.
It kills me inside because they're attacking somebody that technically works for us.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
volunteers.
Exactly. Volunteers. And they do a good job. And
they does a good job.
Sometimes our decisions might need to be reviewed, but on the whole, they're generally sound. But it's more like, if you don't agree with me, then you're not an empath. That's what the whole consensus seems to be.
Mm-hmm. It's this black and white rhetoric, It's like, if you are the thinking, if you're a light worker, you're an angel. And I'm like, no, you're not. And then they're like, if you're an empath, you could never cheat on your husband. What are you smoking?
Well, whatever it is
here.
Well, whatever it is, I just want to know what it is and how much it costs.
No, if you're an empath, you would know. If you're an empath, you would know when your husband is cheating, and you'll be sensitive enough to pick up on the energies of someone else that they've slept with.
Yes, but there was a specific
like
post
a bloodhound
in our group. And I believe it got deleted because it was just like a whole mess of problems. But somebody said flat out that if you cheat on your husband, you cannot be an empath. So if you cheat on your husband or significant other, there is no way that you're an empath because you wouldn't have done that if you were truly an empath.
Oh my goodness. I guess I missed that post. Seems legit.
Well,
so legit.
It's not true, of course. Just because you're an empath doesn't mean you don't have your own desires, needs, and wants. And you might be in a bad position with your husband. You might feel as guilty as all hell for doing it, but you'll still do it because you have your own choices in life. If empaths were perfect, then this world would have changed overnight, but most empaths are pretty self-focused, and that's just a fact.
I made a post and a lot of people just skipped over it, and I literally pointed out, so have you ever cheated? Have you ever stolen something or taken something without permission? Have you ever told a white lie in your life? Have you ever thought bad thoughts or argued with someone online or face to face? Now, is that right there? If you've ever done that, then you couldn't be an empath, could you? Because that is exactly opposite what everybody thinks that an empath is. And I'm like, what is wrong with people? I just want to strangle you. And I know that's not very empathic of me, but I am not claiming to be an empath because, honestly, I don't care about other people's feelings.
Well, you can feel
just being
somebody.
True.
You can feel somebody's feelings. Doesn't necessarily mean you care about them. Just because you can do something doesn't actually necessarily mean that you want to do it. Being altruistic has got nothing to do with being an empath. You can be altruistic without being an empath, and you can be an empath without being altruistic. It's it's a matter of what you are choosing to be. In fact, many empaths use their empathy to try and manipulate others because they can normally judge how other people are feeling.
And just to clarify, just because I said that I don't care about people's feelings has nothing to do with whether or not that how I do my work or how I can deal with people's feelings. I feel your feelings. I know your feelings. The difference is that I have gone to a place that I really don't care what your feelings are because I have to be completely objective with what I'm doing. And because you want me to solve your problem, I have to look at that problem without your emotion.
Exactly. In fact, if you actually care about what people are feeling, then you're going to be a basket case because there is a lot of hate out there. And you just got to be who you need to be.
Exactly. And that's what makes me so good at what I do.
I'm agreeing, yes. No, you are pretty good. You are pretty good, Jen. I tend to, take it to a more personal level. But I mean, that's just my style.
Yes.
Gets the job done too, though. So.
Well, we each have a different job. And, Gary has to deal with people's feelings and understand their feelings and feel their feelings. You, on the other hand, you take them personal and internalize it and then try to work the problem through after you internalize it as your own issue. Me, I'm like, well, I see this. This is what's going on. There's your solution.
Yeah, in other words, empaths are as varied as any other type of person. And you just can't put them all into one basket and say you're an empath, therefore you couldn't possibly do anything wrong because you know what the other person is feeling. And the other thing about being an empath is that you're not going to feel everybody else's emotion all the time. It comes and goes, and it depends on what you're attuned to as well. In fact, the people that you will pick up on the most are the people who are the most like you and that you are attuned to. So if you're having a negative experience or there's a lot of drama in your life, you're going to pick up very similar things. And that's why you have to be mindful of what you do. The more ethical you are with your behavior and the more caring and loving you put into your thoughts and intention, the more positive experience you'll have being an empath.
Well, to be fair, there are different types of empaths too. Yes, you can be an animal empath. Who cares about human emotion? I like dogs.
Exactly.
You could be a nature empath where you don't care about animals or the BS of human society. You just want to be among the flowers. There's tons of different types of empath. So when we say, I'm an empath, I'm morally superior, what you're really doing is lying to yourself, correct?
You're deluding yourself. I don't think lying is the correct word for that. It's more like you are cutting out the shades of grey in between.
It's more like you're falling for like this illusion that it could only be one thing and not the other. And once you fall for that, then it's really hard to always be that. So you get into this situation where you're like, oh, well, if I'm not 125% positive all the time, I've just failed at life and as an empath. So am I really an empath? You can't be happy all the time or sad all the time. It's totally all about a balance.
It is. And that's important to understand. I think being an empath has a lot of connotations which are simply not true for everybody. As Jen said, there's various types of empaths, and it's always going to be an evolving thing. In fact, you can start off as a narcissistic empath and work your way through that, and you can become more or less of a narcissist. The whole point is that an empath has a special ability, but it does not actually automatically make them who they are.
I
But
think.
what if it is?
Dun dun dun.
But I think a lot of the confusion comes, just because someone is angry or sad or anxious, that person automatically thinks like, oh, well, you've been anxious before, so you can respect and accept that. But that's not all necessarily the case. I mean, look at this color, it's red. Oh, look at the tree, it has green leaves. So it's just some things I think it's inherently human that you're able to know. So just because someone is angry doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually be in their shoes and automatically just empathize with them, if that makes any sense. I think that's where a lot of empaths get confused, because just because emotions and you can feel them doesn't necessarily mean you'll internalize it. Oh, I'm great at internalizing everything. But, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is going to do that. Every empath is going to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But not every empath can say they're angry and actually know what they're angry about. They can feel that anger and they know what makes them angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So a lot of times they'll go home and they'll be just pissed off because of that anger somebody else did. They don't know what they're pissed off about, but they know what kind of makes them mad. So that's what they focus on.
That in turn.
And then everybody's upset.
Yeah, the thing is that just because you feel an emotion doesn't necessarily mean you can identify what it is.
Right.
And the other thing about narcissists is that they have often come from abused backgrounds. It might be that they grew up with people putting them down, telling them they're no good, and they spend the rest of their life trying to prove that they are perfect.
Worth it. Yeah.
The narcissists that I know came from very troubled backgrounds to the point where they were insignificant to their parents. So now that they're adults, everything is all about them. So they'll use their empathic abilities to gauge what other people are doing. So therefore they can get what they need from those people because they were never given that as a child.
So basically you're saying that they've turned into a psychic vampire in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
That's a very good... And psychic vampires, by the very nature, can be empathic.
I know a lot of empathic psychic vampires, and they're good at what they do. They really are.
Yeah.
Because you have those that are narcissists where they're more self-centered, and then you have those, unintended narcissists that are just in victim mode all the time. Oh, poor me. Woe is me. I used to be like that. Dude, I was so clingy. Yeah. My God. My early 20s were just awful.
Yeah, look, it takes work to become this quote-unquote perfect empath. I'm good at what I do because I worked hard at it for decades. But even I have this a moment where I'll just flip out and just get angry at people. And it's because there are various reasons, but it's all about where you return to afterwards, which is more important.
Agreed. I think in this society today, people have gone to the point where they're just morally bankrupt. I know. I'm a jerk for saying it. But they are. They have everything at their fingertips. Everything's given to them now. They don't have to work for anything because everything's given to them on a silver platter, and they expect that. And so why shouldn't empathy be the same thing? Why should they have to work at it? Why should they have to be worried about their morals because they're an empath? So therefore their morals are already A+.
Correct. It doesn't come naturally for a lot of people. And those who go ahead and attack others just because they don't agree or insist that something is a certain way, they are being the exact things that they are arguing against. In fact, a true empath, by their definition, is going to feel the emotion and see it from the other person's point of view and just let it go because they can understand why the person said it.
By the way, you can send all the hate mail all the hate mail that you're going to send to Mari and I to Gary's inbox.
Yeah. That's Gary at empathsupport.com. Thanks. And make sure you address it so he could forward it, Yeah.
Yeah, no, most people are too apathetic to write that sort of mail anyway, so I'd be surprised if I receive anything at all.
Now you feel like I've been issued a challenge. I just might write you an email just because.
You don't count.
There we go. I can get
mad.
friends to write those emails.
Yeah, there we go.
It still doesn't count.
I'll get my imaginary friends to write emails. This is better. That'll be great.
Oh, good for you.
Yay!
Okay.
But I think a lot of empaths don't really understand their self. What makes them tick. Understand where they're coming from. That self mastery takes a long time.
It does.
A long time.
It takes not
just
this
born
lifetime,
perfect.
but the accumulation of other lifetimes as well.
Mari's like,
The bland.
you mean I have to do another life here to figure this crap out?
No, I don't want to do any more
really?
lives. This is the last one. Well, that's what I said in my last life, so maybe it's actually true this time.
Mari's only going to come back if I decide to come back.
Well, yeah, it's fun.
Because we're best friends. Can you tell?
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I think neither of us really
And
want
of
to come
course.
back because we're all
of
sort of very
course.
much over it.
Mari and I are just morally bankrupt. Just FYI to everybody out there listening. So that's why we get along.
Do as we say and not as we do. So yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure people are going to take that quote out of context here.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, if you took everything out of context that we just said, email Gary at
empathsupport.com. Again, that's Gary at empathsupport.com.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to say here is just because you're an empath doesn't automatically mean you're a compassionate person, altruistic, not a narcissist, or that you care about everything. In fact, you might feel somebody's pain, but you may not care about the person personally. And you might watch something on the news and you might be outraged by what you see, but I guarantee you 99% of the people have forgotten about it in the next minute or so.
And the other percent is running the streets screaming.
Yeah, and you've got your social justice warriors who feel that they have to make a difference and champion others without actually being asked to champion them in the first place. And on that note, don't ever, do something that someone doesn't ask you to do unless you feel a call or soul call to do so.
Because you will make no friends doing it that way.
Well, you just annoy a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree that you shouldn't be doing stuff like that because it technically isn't good for you. And if you're riding that moral high ground and you feel that you need to do that, you may be doing the wrong thing and upset more people than you're helping.
Yeah, it's like those parent groups, from the 70s and 80s that decided to censor all kids' cartoons and make them so unexciting and moralistic. But kids didn't want that, but people decided, well, I'm going to tell you what you want. You honestly don't always know what people want or what they need to do on a soul level. So
isn't that what a parent is for? Oh, wait.
Yes. Well, technically a parent should do that, but most parents are now saying that, the school should be doing these things that parenting should be doing. And
as I said before, Morally bankrupt.
Mhm.
Gosh, if I had $1 for every time, my mom's a teacher, but if I had $1 for every time a parent would come up to her and say, well, my kid, who is 5 years old, didn't do their homework because they didn't want to, I'd have like $1 million.
Wow. Mm-hmm. My
$1 million.
excuse would be my kid decided to fight me for 4 hours doing a 15-minute assignment. We're not doing it.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Nice. Oh.
But of course, I've got 2 autistic children, so.
Why that makes a difference. I'm talking
Yes.
about, your average kid that, wouldn't have necessarily be on that spectrum, just like, yeah.
Anyway, the point is, even though you can feel other people's emotions, you're only responsible for your own emotions, and don't try and force your beliefs and standards on others. Now, people could argue that's what we're trying to do in this podcast, and you might be right. But if you don't agree with us, that's your call. You don't have to agree with us.
And
we can
Kate Mel,
agree to
remember?
disagree.
Yes.
Gary.
We're going to... Gary at empathsupport.com.
What was that, Jen? I missed it.
Hate mail goes to Gary at empathsupport.com.
We'll put it in the comments section below. Don't worry.
Will agree with me. You'll have the minority which will get up in arms.
This will be in the description. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Okay.
if this podcast, vibes with you and you agree with it, good for you. If you don't agree with it, that's totally fine too. I love agreeing to disagree. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Yes.
Yes. You're entitled.
So like and comment. Oh, wait, yes.
Down below.
That too.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think that's about said everything we had to say on the subject. Final thoughts, Jen?
Be nice to each other and yourself.
And Mari?
Jen said it already, so I'm good.
And remember, hate comments go to Gary at empathsupport.com.
And my thoughts are, just because you're an empath, it doesn't mean that your job is done. It means your path might just be beginning. Thanks all, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
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 Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, here are some others you might find interesting. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear about them. Leave a comment, and maybe even a like.
I rise like a phoenix.